Morning, guys. It's trend follower this side, and it's that time of the week. So it's planning time. Today we'll see some of the zones, some of the trade ideas that we think can make you money next week. Also, we'll see the recap of last week. I want to go with some of the reasons why the action happened last week as the way it did, because you always learn. You never stop learning. There were some reasons that I thought that would happen, but I never imagined that it would just work. It would just go like a rocket. We'll go into that. It would be clear. I also wanted to, in the recap, point out some of the tips and how to trade these zones. Uh, how I trade these zones. It's not just you trade these zones like blindly. Sometimes you can, but like mostly if you want a good trade, it needs some kind of confluences, and I will share that some tips or some reasons I took some of the trades. So I had a great week last week. It definitely needed some patience. I think I am at plus 3 hours from last week, which I mean I mostly target plus 2 hour or plus 3 hour in a week, and I'm happy with that. You know, so I trade personal and prop firms account, and it adds up, right? So without going into that too much, let's instead go into the recap. That's where the main point is. I would really suggest to watch the whole video. Of course, it's on you, but the gems would be there and great trades would be there. If you have watched my previous videos, or if you continuously watch 3, 4 videos, it will start making sense, and these ideas are not important because I'm sharing it. These ideas become more important when you make them your own, when you learn and try to plan your own. And that's my goal. My goal is not to just show what I think the market will do. My goal is to teach you guys how you can plan it properly yourself, independent of me, right? Okay, so let's go with the recap first. I don't think not many, but some of our names never came into the zones. But I wanted to point out in particular where the rocket happened, right? So Euro USD, it just flew. GBP USD, just flew. I told in the last video, I cannot be very bearish on GBP because if you remember on GBP, it looked like, oh, it can go down. But the reason, and it's very important to know that this reason that let's just imagine this candle is not there on weekly, like, right? So let's just imagine that. The reason I didn't think I can be bearish is because every GBP name, you can look at other charts. I will not go much into it. The concept is many GBP names at equal highs at the top, right? And I mentioned in the previous video that I cannot be very bullish on DXY because it's just the first green candle. I want to see how it reacts here, right? So that was very important to me. And the moment I see a gap left and a straight red candle, I wasn't very confident about DXY being bullish, right? So with that in mind, right, I didn't think DXY was bullish. Instead, I wanted something like this, right? Which it never did. But I always believe in when you're trading, and I know initially it feels like, oh, it's a great tool to make money. But remember, it's a great tool to lose money too. So the most important priority of everyone should not be to make money, but to save money, and risk when the quality is there. So with respect to this, I was not confident on DXY bullishness. And what happened was GBP and Euro USD clearly had like an upper hand, right? I've been saying that Euro did may act bullish. And for me, I said this weekly fair value gap may hold. Well, the moment you formed this candle, I was like, okay, it's holding. But I wanted something like this. It never gave me that. It is fine. It will always give you that maybe in future, right? Similarly on Euro USD, it did feel like down, and I told in the video that I would not trust this pattern. Even if I want to short it, I will short in this area, but I didn't short it. Why did I short it? Because DXY didn't look as bullish at all, right? So this never happened. So that's why I didn't get into these trades. I couldn't with this huge rocket, but I didn't lose any money. And that's my number one priority, right? Because it will come into some of our zones, new zones get formed and everything. So why did GBP USD did or do something like this, or I should say even Euro USD, is because the combination when you have multiple names with drawn liquidity equal drawn liquidity, a great uh you know, if you think from like, don't think of it as a weekly candle, but if you understand order flow was damn bullish, right? Like you formed a weekly demand, then you took that liquidity from here, then you are bouncing off that, you have a weekly fair value gap. The probability of going up was higher than going down, or at least doing something like this. You cannot just believe this. I was a little skeptical because of this weekly area, but this weekly fair value gap was something where I was like, oh, I cannot even short it completely, which means what? Which means just stay out if you're not confident about it. I was confident when this candle showed up, but it never came back, right? So my reason of showing this is not to explain why I thought, explain that I knew what would happen, is to explain why I thought it cannot be bearish and saving money is important. And this time it didn't test this, but next time it may, right? So you have to be prepared. You need this knowledge in future. So I'm giving you that. I'm trying to give you that. So that is GBP USD. But the things where we really, really nailed, right? I told you guys the risk off pattern is the most important pattern right now. And we got our trade on odd CHF. So I took this trade, loved it. And this is where my tip would come, right? So I explained that odd CHF and NZDCHF, these are the zones. Also said in the in the last week's video that for me, they both have to come in the zone together. Then it's high probability. What also happened that when it was doing that, odd USD came here, right? In this weekly block area. So now, not only you have odd CHF and NZD CHF as our most important uh, trade ideas, which I mentioned, but they are also in the zone together. Plus, odd USD is in that weekly zone, weekly block. So, what do you think about that, right? Immediately, your mind would be like, oh, this is a high probability trade. And that's what happened. Similarly, on odd JPY and NZDJPY. So, think from this context. You have a risk off scenario. Odd JPY, NZDJPY, odd CHF, NZDCHF all came together in a zone when odd USD was testing a weekly area. Now, when I tell you that, what will you do? Right? You have to take that trade. So what did was I took odd JPY. Yes, odd CHF was better, but that at that moment I just took odd JPY. The reason I took mainly odd JPY was this daily area, right? So that's number one tip. When these zones happen together, when testing of these zones happen together, high probability. When it matches with the futures chart, high probability. That's tip number one. The tip number two is how do you choose between preferred and long supply or demand zone? So let me explain you that a little bit. Let me remove that and I will just take a minute here, but this is like as I said, I want you guys to learn and not just play on these trade ideas. I don't want to delete this, so ignore this part. But I said there are two 12-hour zones here, right? So let me go to 12-hour here. So there's one zone. I think I may have deleted one, but there's one zone here, there's one zone here, and there's one zone. If I extend this one. So let me use this. Okay, one, two, three. Now you will tell me, oh, if I enter here, the stop loss is so big, right? That's true. That's true. So what you will try to do, at least what I try to do, firstly, I would like to see if I can connect it with a daily candle, right? So for me, this is the daily candle here, right? So this preferred version is this. I would have loved to short here, right? And this would be my stop loss. But what was the condition is these 12 hours were being tested together. So what's one candle, which is a supply candle, which covers all three zones? That would be this whole candle. So that was the idea for me. I entered here, stop loss here somewhere. You can do it above. And because of all the combination, I didn't think I thought like it would maximum test this, so it cannot go above this, right? So that's the second tip, right? Whenever you have these zones, overlapping zones, try to find one candle which covers all. So you could have said, okay, I will use this candle. This whole candle gives me covers all these zones, right? So that's tip number two. Okay. So with respect to recap, odd CHF and NZD CHF were the one. So if we see this, this is where I was saying in the video in this screenshot. Let me bring it here. That this is the area I'm looking at on odd CHF, and what did odd CHF do? Right there. So wait, yeah. So look at this and look at this same zone. It came and got rejected. Now the next is, I think it was NZDCHF. So I mentioned they should come together. So NZDCHF came together. So in this screenshot, you can see this here. And right here, you have this and just went down. Uh, the third trade that worked perfectly was this worked initial part of the week. CAD JPY. I didn't mention maybe it goes above after this. I don't care. This is the zone I really care about. And CAD JPY did that. Uh, Let me show quickly. So this was the zone, got rejected, came down, CAD JPY, right? And that's the power of currency strength also. And this is not purely supply and demand, remember. We combine various theories to find perfect confluence and perfect trade ideas. So currency, we knew CAD is weak, JPY is strong, CHF is strong. So that worked, right? So this is what I wanted to show where I went wrong. It's not always green, right? So I took one NQ trade last week. This was the tweet I can I yeah, let me see if I can zoom in. Okay, whatever. Point being, this was the wrong trade. I took this trade. This one never worked for me. This was supposed to be a great demand area in the monthly zone. Did work -1 hour here. Learned something, lost something. So that was -1 hour. That's why it's like 2.5 almost hour last week, but 2 to 3 basically. And the next one I wanted to show was, if you want to follow me on Twitter, if you don't, that's fine too. But point being, like, I said, I took some odd JPY short here, wish me luck, because stops, right? So March 6, that's when it happened. So I just did point out the trade I am taking. I sometimes do when I really see a lot of confluences. I sometimes do. I don't like to be very noisy on Twitter. But this is what I wanted to show, that I pointed it out. I think shout out to Ian Wicks, if I'm pronouncing your name right. He commented on the YouTube video too, like what's happening with the market. And trust me, I was on the same page. It's not coming back at all. Euro USD like a rocket. But I didn't mention that odd JPY and odd is in the area, so this can be good, right? So that's the recap. Just be patient, just believe in quality, and the process will prevail. It will win over the your account. If you screw up with the process, your account gets screwed up. So in my case, I was very patient, because when seeing this, I was like, please give me a pullback, please give me a pullback. Never gave one. But then I was almost very sure that this would happen. This has a not odd CHF, but I will get something throughout the week. It's just a pattern I've seen for weeks, that uh, a trade always shows up. A trade always shows up. In my case, what happens is I get these alerts with my AI system, and I think on 6th March I got, this trade CHF. Oh, this is 8th March, so there must be something on 6th. Point being, like, I have multiple systems, tools that I've built with my years of experience. And someday I believe, like, I believe that I can like it would be way easier to comment during the market. So sometimes I do that with Twitter. If by God grace I have like a bit following, then I can even open a Telegram or Discord group. But that's way into future. The reason I want to do it is these plans doesn't like you have to see what is happening in these zones at that time to really trade well, right? And I don't want anyone to blindly trade these zones. I want people to be alert when price comes here, right? So that's why in my mind, at some point, I want to, teach by opening some kind of Discord group. I'm not saying it would be like it would have a pricing tag on it, but the point being like to teach, like learn from this. Uh, but that's way into future. So that's why I sometimes comment on Twitter saying I am taking these. And if you guys follow me and watch my videos, it will all connect immediately, right? So I would really recommend that, but it's up to you, right? So let's start with the plan of the week, right? But before we do that, as tradition goes, we will look at what are the important news this week, right? To see where the volatility is. So this week, am I seeing this right? Yeah, March 9th, right? So this week, what you will see is mainly USD news. So CPI, core CPI, but the most important news is the CAD news, the rate statement news. So this would be very important, this part, right? So this is where most of our focus would be CAD, right? This next is on the list would be GBP, but that's later in the week. USD inflation expectations, that's later in the week. So, in my opinion, the first most important news would be CAD. The second one is USD CPI, right? And then I think this 12th to 15th. This may affect JPY a little bit, but again, it's 12 to 15. So I mostly look at red, but this time it was less red. So I was seeing if there is any other important news. So I don't think so. It's very heavy news week, but every week is heavy news with Trump. So let's keep our ears and eyes open. Okay. So what my focus would be mainly, I will explain what, but these are the news, and CAD would be a good one, I think, to focus on. But we have some chart patterns there that can really work. So that's news. In terms of currency strength, do I have to tell you that? On weekly, we saw euro strength, right? So we know euro has been acting very strongly. So with on daily, we saw CHF strength. So CHF has been acting strongly, right? So let's try to build up the stories. Uh, as you know, before going into charts, I like to build up a story, like to see what's happening, and no point for guessing. Risk off scenario. That's what we have this week. So we'll look into CHF and JPY strength if we see any, and there's some nice combinations there, right? So first and foremost, CHF and JPY strength, right? But before even so, risk off scenario, that's for sure. But there are some patterns happening which before going into any trade plans, I want to show those patterns so that it helps us with the story building. The number one pattern is what are the names which took liquidity? So there are two names which are showing that they took liquidity. One is Australian dollar. It took a weekly liquidity from here. Whenever this kind of candles formed after a block, what happens is the probability of testing previous week high is less, but it can happen. But overall, a red candle can show up. So I think Australian dollar can show weakness this week, which again, risk of scenario, which matches with the scenario again. So we think I think Australian dollar weakness is coming. The next is CAD. Again, this, right? So, CAD, you tested this weekly area. So, this sub weekly supply tested it, got rejected. Again, the same thing can happen. You can bounce till here, here, and then go down. So, I think CAD may form or trend line here. So something like this. So CAD weakness can happen too. I have a feeling that it is, we'll see how the week starts. It's very tough to say what exactly would happen, but I know weekly liquidity probability of weakness this week on CAD is high. So odd weakness is high probability, CAD weakness is high probability. And just because I'm saying doesn't mean you have to, be like, oh, I will short CAD. What you have to do is, if the price action is indicating of weakness in these names, that means you should know that it's happening because it took the weekly liquidity. So let me short it against a strong name. What will be the strong name? According to our plan, it should be CHF or JPY. But if that doesn't happen, then whatever the strong name is, right? Like you have to think from that. Like you have to be a little flexible. But plan wise, right now, mostly we hit the nail on the head. So JPY CHF. But sometimes what happens, reversals and all that. So you have to be ready. But anytime you see weakness in CAD names, you know it's happening from the weekly level. So the move can happen for days. It may not be just a small move. So I wanted to share this Australian dollar and CAD. Why? Because they took the weekly liquidity. So that's the most important one. Then I wanted to show NZD again the weekly. Now this one, you have this trend line already. The probability of this testing high, weekly high, is very less, right? So NZD is a much safer name too. I think it will show weakness too. Uh, then I think, yeah, this one, there was a reason I wanted to. Let me quickly check. Where did that go? Oh yeah. So the reason I'm bringing CHF, now I remember, is because CHF has equal loads on odd CHF, if you see this, right? And NZD CHF is forming this kind of trend line. And they both have, but we'll go there later. But you have these equal lows on odd CHF, which means either CHF is gonna act strong or Australian dollar or NZD will act weak, or both, right? So the combination that odd CHF, I'm just going through this once. Yeah. So has equal lows. I wanted to show CHF that what's the combination here. So in this case, what is good to know here is uh, I have to show the monthly here. Yeah. So you could have just rejected here. Ah, this is not here, right? You could have just rejected here because there's a huge monthly liquidity fair value gap, but you covered the whole fair value gap. So that's damn bullish. So it can go up. The second thing I wanted to show was JPY. Now, JPY could have rejected here. It may still do, guys, just because right now it doesn't look like that. Doesn't mean the monthly candle is over. It's just 8th March. So eventually JPY should show weakness and come back in this zone, I think. But right now, the beauty of JPY is it has equal highs. So for this month and the next month, at least I am bullish on JPY. I would like, there are two combinations on JPY happening, two kind of trades, which I would like to trade. One I shared last week is in this zone. We'll go into that later when we go into the daily and weekly zone. But I wanted to show that JPY has equal highs. So ideally, what we would like to see is it just breaks it. That would be great. But what can happen is it pulls back and then breaks it, right? So we'll see how this week starts. Right now, JPY has equal highs. So I do think till that with this monthly candle, I cannot be bearish JPY. There can be that you get that bounce. But with CHF equal lows, JPY equal highs, CHF on daily, JPY on monthly, there's no way for me to look at bearish price action. Yes, there can be some kind of pullback, but I would let the weekly candle show its true colors before even thinking about that. Right now, the weekly candle doesn't show that. Right now, if you see, JPY had this bounce from this block, right? So I said last week I want JPY to come in this zone, but it didn't. But when it had this huge move to the upside, I know JPY is gonna be bullish, right? So what it didn't, but point being, JPY had this bounce from a weekly zone. So now what I expect is it to push here, come in this zone, right? So right here, I would just lock my gains and pause on JPY for a little bit because for me, I don't think after that it should just continue going up. But again, I said last week, right? This doesn't mean I will short it here. This means I will lock my gains here. I'm still in one of the JPY trades, so I will just lock my gains there. But again, point being, it is going up after taking weekly liquidity. So you cannot just short it without seeing any weakness. Instead, be prepared to long it if there's some kind of manipulation. Uh, the next name I wanted to share was Euro futures. So in this one, I am really interested in this zone. So I think if this week I there is a possibility that DXY shows strength, and I will explain why. But I'm not saying complete reversal strength, guys. You will see the candle and it will make sense. But I think it needs, I should say, a pullback. So with respect to Euro, I think this area is good. That it will all make sense. Why am I pointing this area? But there is an 8-hour demand below this candle here. So I think that can be great. So if you look at the weekly, I should just change this to weekly level. So if you look at the weekly, you have this area. I think I want to see the price action here on Euro. So that's for Euro. And I went through others. Now the most important, I should have started with that DXY. So with respect to DXY, what do we have there is clear sign of weakness. Where do we think we are going? Right? So I think there is a possibility that eventually we will come here. Will it be by next month? Will it be 3 months later? I don't care. I don't know. Right? But we'll trade as what we see. So I think right now the most important zone is for DXY. I think it's showing strength. My reasoning of saying that is this weekly zone here. We need some kind of, when after every big candle, I like to pause and see what the next candle does. With the XY, I think this zone is important, but there is not much supply here. So I will just watch the price action here. If we form a daily supply, the best zone is right here. Here's right. Why? Because previous weekly low and then 8 hour supply, great zones here. I think there is a daily also. Okay, no daily, but 8 hour, and why are there two blocks? There must be a reason. So 8 hour. Oh yeah, this one is right here. I think this one. And there's this, right? So there are multiple zones here. So I don't think it can just go above that easily. So I would just say like that's what I mean, that I don't think that it can go above because there are multiple zones. I don't think uh, that like it would be easy to do that. So if it comes there, that would be the perfect setup for any USD name. Now, if it comes here, then it needs a combination of either the other name, like let's say Euro, example sake, right? To be in daily demand, or uh, it forms a daily supply here. So price action here would matter. So that's how I use these zones, right? I just don't blindly trade it always. Sometimes I do trade it blindly, but if there are zones which I'm not sure of, if like for example, this zone, as much as I love the area and everything, There's no daily demand, daily supply here. So I will not just blindly short it here. If I want to long Euro USD, for example, and Euro is in a daily demand and USD is here, that's a different thing. So I want some kind of structure like that, some kind of combination like that. So with respect to DXY, I think overall we are coming in this zone here, right? There may be some hurdles, but overall, I think we are targeting this. But I shouldn't say target. We think it was coming. I'm not trading for this zone. All I'm doing is we'll take on week by week basis. That's my plan. So that's DXY. So we are bearish DXY, but I do think this week is on a bounce on some names. And the reason I say that is because if I'm saying odd Australian dollar, right, tested this liquidity and it should come down. Canadian dollar tested this liquidity and it can do this. Why will he do that, guys? Will it happen just because of their names? Canadian currency can. It has great news, right? Australian dollar can. It has great news. But in my mind, for them to really show that kind of weakness, like full on, USD has to show strength too, in my mind, right? So at least that's the combination I'm thinking of, which basically means not like I will go long Euro USD, sorry, short Euro USD, short GBP. That means that instead of targeting, let's say, where did this go? Let's say there was a zone here, right? So instead of targeting long from this region, I would rather let the weekly candle pull back a lot more than what I expect. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So these are the futures chart. Most importantly, JPY equal highs, CHF on some charts equal lows. More importantly, took the monthly level. I think the drawn liquidity on CHF is right here somewhere, right? So I think CHF will continue showing strength. Um, that's kind of it with futures chart. So let's go to the trade ideas, okay? Uh, was there anything else? No. Okay. So before we go to trade ideas, let's repeat some of the things. First, risk off themes, which means we are not looking into JPY weakness and CHF weakness right now. Yes, JPY is in a zone, is very close to a zone, is already in a zone. So it may be less stronger than CHF in my opinion, but there are no signs to say JPY will start showing weakness. When it does, it does, right? We'll think about that later. So first is that. Uh, Second is, so first was risk of thing, right? Second, what names did you see uh, took liquidity or have clear drawn liquidity? CHF I showed and I will again show, but CHF equal lows, JPY equal highs, CHF equal lows on daily time frame, JPY equal highs on I think weekly. Point being, CHF in short term can show more strength, right? So first was that, second was that, and oh, JPY CHF drawn liquidity and liquid which took liquidity is Australian dollar, NZD. Remember, guys, in last videos I shared all this move on NZD is happening from a monthly block. Don't forget that. So whatever you think that oh it should bounce or CHF and NZDCHF, keep your thoughts away, guys. Basically go into names where it's clear the chart is more bullish than this. Right now, what is important for you to know that month liquidity wise, all this is happening on odd CHF and NZDCHF is from monthly combination, guys, which means I would not be surprised that eventually we'll even test this zone. So I'm not longing these names at all. So I just wanted to point out odd CHF, NZD CHF is happening through monthly. Australian dollar took the weekly liquidity. CAD dollar took the weekly liquidity. I don't think CAD CHF is happening. No, okay, perfect. Okay, so that's why our first priority would be that. So coming back to it, risk off, liquidity, odd, uh, and CAD and NZD, odd monthly, odd weekly, NZD monthly, CAD, NZD weekly, CAD weekly. Okay, makes sense. If it doesn't, watch what I said before, hear what I said before. But okay, drawn liquidity, CHF equal names. Okay, so why am I repeating this? Because again, the goal is for you to think about these ideas yourself. And now I will go really fast with the idea. The concept should be clear by now. The most important part is the logic, why we are thinking about what we are thinking. So let's let's start, guys. Let's do it fast. I don't want these videos because I start speaking and these videos become really long. So, odd CHF, the most important thing, let's look at the weekly. Odd CHF is coming from a monthly zone. So we are bearish on this. You have this weekly candle. When this weekly candle happens, you can short here and here. I would prefer somewhere here in 8 hour, but it may just short from here. And why do I say that? Because we are equal, we have equal highs here. Now, why is this zone important? Uh, Let me show you. Let me show you. Let me show you. Yeah. So there's this 12-hour zone here. Okay. This 12-hour zone. You have equal highs, equal lows. Then this 8 hour is beautiful again. Now the most important part, there was a zone already in this region, and this 4 hour. I have, if you have seen my previous videos, uh, I want to make it bigger. Okay. So, okay. So I'll just hide the lines for a little bit so that it's clear what I'm talking about. But when I do, these lines will go away also. So just bear with me. You see this huge wick and almost no wick here. That's also a wick vacuum. So overall, there is lot and lot of confluence here. Lots and lots of confluence here. So I think this zone can be a great zone for all Australian dollar CHF continuity. Please keep in mind you are in this weekly zone. So I would weekly wick area. So I would just, short it. Okay. I would say the beauty of this zone in particular is multiple. So point being like equal lows. If you take previous week low, you're coming in the zone just above this previous week low. So it can really work in your favor. Let me remove this, all this. And now if you remember, uh, we went through, let me set another. We went through this guy, NZD futures chart, and I said that's better in terms of the futures chart. Why is this? And with respect to this chart, why I do think it's better is look at this bloody long wick. Look at this bloody long wick, right? So same combination here, and you have these zones here. So here, I think it was again. So look at this 12-hour, right? And then you have this 8 hour same, and then you have this 4 hour vacuum. So I really, really love this chart, guys. NZDCHF or CHF. Keep in mind, you still should put a stop loss here. But if you're thinking, oh, this is just 1.5 hour or 2 hour, it's still 2 hour. It's still money. It's still high probability trade. And if you have patience, it's not a bad idea to keep it as a big swing trade. That's up to you, but I think this zone is damn good. Now, what is the speciality of these zones? It's firstly again CHF strength and all that, right? But if you look at the monthly chart, this is where it got rejected. There's an order block here, so this matches complete perfectly with that, right? So this is also high probability zone for me. Again, odd CHF and NZD CHF are all doing this from a monthly block, from a weekly block. CHF has equal lows, uh, like CHF has in these names. So keep in mind these are high probability trades. So CAD CHF, why am I talking about this? Same reason CAD has big news, red news, and with respect to CAD CHF, it what was the one? I think yeah, it took the liquidity on CAD currency chart. So in this, what I think is similar to what was that? Similar to odd CHF, there's a zone here, this 12-hour zone, which has a 12-hour vacuum wave, right? So I think entry here, stop loss here. I have a feeling with everything else, it can go further down. I would not be surprised to do that. Surprised to see that. Now remember, when it comes here, right? So ideally, you will short above this daily high. So you have this daily high manipulation also that may happen, and you will get your risk to reward. Nice risk to reward there. So CAD CHF again a high probability trade. I would personally like to see that happen on Monday, ideally, right? Or max by Tuesday, because when a daily manipulation happens, if it happens the next day, that's always better. Even weekly or something like the next candle, right? But if it happens later, it happens later. But I personally feel like if it's the next day, the probability is higher. So these three are like very high probability trades, guys. So why am I showing? Next is NZDJPY and AUDJPY. Why am I showing that? Do you think AUDCHF and NZDCHF will just go down without AUDJPY and NZDJPY going down? I don't think so, right? So they have to go together, and I showed JPY has equal highs. I will hold the. I'm already in AUDJPY. I'll hold these trades till JPY takes that area on till CHF either breaks equal lows. I mean, both should happen. JPY should take equal highs and CHF should take equal lows, or CHF. But the zone here is right here. There's a vacuum zone. Then you have this 12-hour, 8-hour zone. Also, I think this is also a great zone. So now what you can do is you can enter somewhere here, stop loss here. Similarly on NZDJPY, similar area, you can enter here, stop loss here. I think this I personally like JPY more. Now I should point out, guys, I should point out when I take these trades, the way I take is not by thinking about just entering and target. I think about stop loss and target first. So let's say in my mind, I'm like, example sake, this is the target, right? I know my stop loss should be here. So this gives you a better perspective on what the trade is. Oh, if my entry is here, then I get 3.5. If my entry is here, 4. Let's not be greedy. Let's get here, 3, let's say. So, you see, maybe you were thinking you will enter here, but now you realized if you enter here, you're still getting 3.3 or 3.5. What was that? 3, right? So that's good. That's good. So you sometimes what will happen is price just comes here and goes down, and you realize that, oh, you would have still gotten 3 hours, right? So I do that. Anyway, so I think this zone here is great for NZDJPY, weekly vacuum, 12-hour zone. I think I showed NZD chart also. So I think these 5 names, odd CHF, NZD CHF, CAD CHF, NZD JPY, odd JPY are my top ones. Now the second name, I'm already in this, but I would like to add on this. Now why I like this is because it bounced from a great zone. Uh, it bounced from a weekly level, right? I showed the CAD futures. This one took a weekly liquidity. It had to pull back. I personally wasn't expecting break of this. So I took a trade here, got -1 hour on this, but I just took it in one account, so it's not that bad. Sorry, NQ I took in just one account. This I took in multiple accounts. So this was very surprising to me. But then it came here and I entered again. So in all level right now, this bounce has been crazy. So I'm feeling good about it. But I do think it should pull back and then go up. Now, the problem is that there is a part of me which thinks USD will show strength immediately next week because everything, not immediately, but a little pullback and then go up. So in my mind, I'm thinking if USD comes into DXY comes into my zones and this price action comes here, I can take this. Please keep in mind, I will still keep the stop loss here. It it may be bad, but the point being, there is a huge chance you see something like this with CAD, uh, big CAD news, right? So I think the probability of this is there, and so if I get an entry here, I'll hold it and try to take that trade. Having said that, it's a huge red news. So if just before the news the price is not till here, right, then I will put the stop loss on my entry. If the price is here somewhere, then okay, stop loss is fine. But I think there is a possibility with CAD news you see something like this. Anyway, so that's USD CAD. Then odd USD, I said, I think what can maximum happen is it can come down here, but I think you are gonna see something like this. Similarly, on NZD USD, I don't think something like that can happen. You have already uh, tested, you're very close to this area. So I think what you can do is the risk to reward is better on this name. It may not never go above this, and even if it does, it would be a small move. So if you can come somewhere here, you can take this. So point being, how will you trade this? Ideally, you would not trade NZD USD per se. Ideally, ideally you would trade NZD CHF when NZD USD or N future 6N future comes here, right? So I think point being, like, that's how I want to combine it. I want to see price here and then I short NZD CHF, right? So that's the way I think. So more, if you need the perfect zone, then it would be this one. Okay. So the reason I'm keeping this is because I do think uh, you will see something like this on NZD and AUDUSD specifically on both basically. But like, let's say you missed NZDCHF, this can be also a valid trade, but stop loss should be above this weekly line. And I would rather have you trade NZDJPY or NZDCHF. But again, a trade is a trade. I think you are gonna see something like a red big weekly candle. That's my thought process on this. The next is OddCAD, the only one I would. The reason I was bringing it is because I think, uh, like with respect to OddCAD, right? Okay, so I don't know if I mentioned this zone. So it took liquidity, odd USD and OddCAD both took this liquidity, and it has formed an 8-hour supply. So if it enters together with odd USD, then this can be a good combination, something like this, right? But please, please, please cancel this trade if before the red folder news. This would not be my first priority. This is just to see if things happen with USD. If it comes here, I would rather short odd USD. Keep it on bearing two things, that USD does show strength during the week, and that's mainly it. Yeah, that's mainly it. So next, I want to talk about some of the important names. So again, our first priority is those names that I've called out. But the next priority we have to keep an eye on are Euro names, guys, Euro GBP names, because Euro have shown extreme strength, extreme strength. But because it has shown such extreme strength, and because I think DXY can show strength, that means Euro can show weakness. So I am kind of keeping an eye on them and seeing how the price action behaves. But point being, because of that, there's not clear daily demand uh, that I can just long from unless Euro pulls back a lot, right? So I will just point those out. I think one of the best zones on Euro you odd is this zone. If it comes here, great zone. But there are two other zones. One is the daily demand, right? The reason I now see this one can work. This particular one can work. And why do I say that? Is because Euro Australian dollar had just taken the liquidity, right? On weekly, and you saw this is a pattern you are seeing on all CHF JPY. So I think this one can hold. This is a great daily zone here. But if it doesn't, your second entry can be somewhere here, right? So Euro Australian dollar is this. Uh, where is Euro NZD? Yeah, so Euro NZD, this one is a great zone again on Euro NZD. It's very close to the top, so there's always a little bit of risk on that. So give a better stop loss, I would suggest. I would really recommend that. So I think Euro NZD, this zone is good, and then you have some zone in between. But I really love zone here because it's above the below the previous week high, right? So in my mind, I really like the zone here. So if it comes here along with Euro Australian dollar, that's a good combination, or along with GBP odd. So GBP odd Australian dollar has this perfect combination where it is bouncing from the previous weekly high. It formed this 12-hour demand, and there is a daily demand also, right? So if Euro Australian dollar and GBP Australian dollar come together, guys, that's important. So come together here, then I will long it. And what did I say at the start of the video? I want a candle which covers this. So if you're coming here, I would rather use this candle. So my entry would be here, stop loss would be here. I don't care about 2 hour. I'm fine with it. I've learned not to be greedy in markets. So if I get this, I will take an entry like this, take my 2.5 hour, 3 hour, whatever, right? So I think that can really work well. If this really works, I think you cannot see in this chart, or maybe you can. Let me see on monthly. No, I think you can see in one of the charts. Yeah, Euro NZD. Look at this huge wick, right? So you may think you're entering here with, imagine you're using this candle. You may think this is a big stop loss, but it's entirely not. I'm not saying target that, but just example say here, here, and oh wow. Okay, let me. Okay, this is 7 hour. I'm not saying Joe's till there, but even if you capture till here, that's 3 hour, right? Like, or so all I'm saying is yes, it's a big candle, but it's better to be safe than sorry. 2 hour is not bad, guys. Change your mindset if you want 7, 8 hour. So at least I've learned I get trades every week, so let's not be greedy. I think Euro, Australian dollar, and GBP, all Australian dollar names basically are amazing, amazing, because all of this are happening from monthly zones and weekly zones, right? So I think point being, like, I think you can pull back here, and the only con you have is maybe it's taking this liquidity, but it may come down. But because of whatever chart patterns I'm seeing throughout, plus the environment, I really doubt it can come down from this area very easily. So I think this one is a great area. I think this one is a great area on Euro NZD. So I would like to trade these names too. So that's Euro Australian dollar. I would like to combine them when it comes here, or when if the euro or GBP are in some great zone. So that's how I combine my trades. The next is, yeah. So let's say you did Euro USD. How am I using this chart, right? Let's say, um, let's say DXY shows strength, right? we are still bearish DXY, right? So at some point you want to go long DXY, or let's say you're short on Australian dollar USD. At some point you have to log gains. I will use this chart for that. So I have this zone here, which I really, really love. Don't ask me why completely, but there is a great zone here. There's 8 hour zone. It's a star zone for me. The reason these are stars are because of some of the coding and tools I have developed, where I these are high probability zones. So when it comes here, I will lock it. Uh, so this is the zone where I would be like, okay, if I'm in a trade where USD is acting strong, this is where I will lock it. With respect to Euro USD, I would like to go long here. If GBP USD also comes in a good zone, but I will long Euro USD names because of how the candle is. And again, Euro USD is almost inverse of uh, DXY. USD, so that would be perfect combination. What I would really love to see is GBP USD here, ideally. But if it's here, then I may think about it. But if it's here, then it's a great combination for me. But I will focus on Euro USD more than GBP USD. And that's kind of it, guys. Okay, yeah, there is one more, which if it happens, it can be a great trade. We have been saying that USD can show strength. Silver has also taken weekly liquidity, which means that the next candle may be a red. Now, will it do it from here? I don't know. Maybe it does something like this. It is quite possible with this move, but maybe it does something like this. So I would like to watch price action here. I think there is a possibility that silver does this. The second possibility is silver does this. For me, I personally, uh, when there are long wicks, I personally want some trade here. So I would personally like to see silver coming here and then I will short it. But I still wanted to point out, sometimes what happens is uh, you see a big price action from here and you get a retest, then you can short it, right? So just be alert there, but my preference would be in this zone. All right, guys. So I hope this made sense. Again, I really want to make these videos shorter, I guess, because it feels like longer videos can be too boring. But this is the topic which I'm passionate about. I hope this helps. I hope the logic helps. I hope the story building helps. If you want any help from me, any question for me, I think Ian did a great job by commenting on the video. You can even message me on Twitter. It's not like I'm a big guy over there. I always reply, but I'm here to help. I really am. Uh, I have seen my life changing. It's in the process, and I want to help as many people I can. That's the goal. So even if you think like these are not connecting with you so much, let's find a reason why they are not. If you really want to improve, you have to, uh, you know, learn and understand from experience. So if there's any way I can help you guys, I'm there. But coming back to the main point, I hope this video helped. I will be continuing making these videos. I hope these plans help. Let me know how I can improve. Let's make some money this week. All the best, guys. Thanks.